Welcome to Equipping the Saints for the Age of AI podcast, where we will explore how followers of Christ can navigate the rapidly changing landscape of artificial intelligence with wisdom, discernment, and hope. I'm your host, Peter Knelson, and I'm glad you're joining us today.
Glad to be here, Peter.
Yes. As technology evolves at a staggering pace, many Christians are left wondering, what does faithful living look like? In an age of algorithms, automation, and artificial intelligence, this podcast exists to equip the saints with theological insight, practical wisdom, and meaningful conversations as we face these challenges together. So today I'm thrilled to be joined by Chris Powers, who is the creator behind Full of Eyes, and we're going to have a conversation today about your art and also about how AI is impacting your art and some of your insight for the church on the age of AI. Before we get into today's episode, we're going to take a look at what AI can do. Okay, we're going to try something a little bit different today. We're going to go to this website called Base44. This just showed up. Of course, as I'm doing a bunch of AI stuff now, I'm just getting all sorts of advertisements for different AI stuff. So Base44 popped up on my YouTube as an advertisement, and here it advertises itself as Base44 lets you build fully functional apps in minutes with just your words, no coding necessary. So essentially, it's a coding AI coding website. So what I'm going to do here is apparently you can just create an app. So we're going to try something unique here. First of all, I have children, so my children love to read stories. I'm going to see if we can generate something that can make a story, like a generator of sorts that generates stories endlessly, and then also gives me pictures to go with it. So let's see, how would we describe this? Create for me an app that generates children's stories and also generates the art work or the illustrations, that's better. The illustrations for the children's stories. Like a children's book generator, in case that was not clear. Okay, let's see what it does. Here it says creating your app. This might take a few minutes. Okay, so this is what this gave me. Now you can see Story Magic, called it Story Magic Children's Story Generator, and it looks like you can even put your own details in. Okay, so let's try this out and see what happens. Main character, and you're supposed to give some detail here, so we'll just go with whatever they've provided. A brave little mouse under the sea, I'll do, because that's kind of a weird idea. Select age group, we'll do early elementary. Moral lesson. Oh boy, a moral or a lesson. That's cool. Optional. Yeah. What should I put in there? Boy, I'll just again do what they've put. The importance of friendship and helping others. I'll put the importance of helping others. Okay, generate my story. Let's see what it does. Here it's kind of another generator. It's like Generatorception. If you've ever seen the movie Inception, I've got a generator here within the generator. So, writing a story, creating cover, drawing scenes, saving magic. Okay.
Here you go. Milo the Brave Little Mouse under the sea. And you got the cover there that you can't see very well, but that's AI for you. Oh, wow. Once upon a time in a splendid coral reef lived a brave little mouse named Milo. As Milo swam deeper, he heard a soft, muffled cry, "Help, somebody!" With all his might, Milo pulled and tugged at the plastic, but it wouldn't budge. "Let's all tug together." I like this picture right here. Still needs some work on the art generation, but turtle mouse it turned into. Feeling proud, Milo and his new friends swam to the top of the reef. From that day on, Milo became known as the bravest mouse in the ocean. So that was kind of interesting. And then if you go up, you can go back to the story library, and I think, there it saved the story, and then you can create a new one if you want to. So this is another great example of how quickly AI is going to advance, because this is just the start, right? I've never heard of Base 44 before. I think it's pretty new. And so this is just the start of this website. This is the start of kind of the coding AI, where AI will just code an app for you. And so as the years go on, this will get better and better. And you could make any sort of app for anything that you want. I heard a theory from someone saying that eventually AI will be able to create full unique programs for you. If you have a specific unique program that you need, you could just build it using an AI prompt, which is pretty crazy. We're already sort of here. As you can see, I just created an app for children's stories, which is quite amazing.
And we were just talking moments ago about how this isn't just you had mentioned this isn't just a little feature that has developed now. It's become this whole new thing, and you can see many corporations embracing it too. And I kind of compare it with the internet, right? The internet, when that came about, just was enveloped in everything we do, and now we can't live without the internet. And so I think that artificial intelligence is going to be the same as the internet, and that everything will every company is incorporating artificial intelligence into their companies, and it's just going to be something we can't live without anymore. So that's kind of interesting. It's going to be a challenge. We'll get into that a little more, but first of all, I want you to tell us about yourself and your art.
Yeah. So, well, I am a pastor at a little church here in rural Ohio. Been the preaching pastor here for going on 8 years. Married for going on 16 years. Have 2 kids. They are 4. My son is 4 and daughter is a year and a half or so. So we are in the early children's stage, which is great. And I suppose most specific to this conversation is for the last 11 years, I've been doing artwork through the ministry of Full of Eyes, which I started while I was in seminary. And that uses visual exegesis, which is basically this idea that exegesis is the idea of drawing out a meaning, particularly from a text. And we are all, many of us, familiar with verbal or textual exegesis, which would be something like an expository sermon or a commentary or something like that, that's drawing out the meaning of Scripture with language. And I try to do that, but have the medium of final communication to be visual, so that the images are doing the work of unfolding the meaning of the text, or at least the meaning that I'm prayerfully perceiving in the text. And so Full of Eyes does that with both still imagery and animation. and the centerpiece of that whole work is the revelation of who God is, particularly in the crucifixion, in the crucified Jesus as he's perceived in light of the resurrection. I'm working largely in Johannine thought world because that's where my postgraduate work is.
Okay.
But the crucifixion and the resurrection being indivisible realities. So temporally they're separate, historically they're separate, but as far as confession goes and perception goes, they're indivisible. And when you look at the crucified one, as he is interpreted and illumined by the resurrection, proclaimed in the resurrection, that's where we know who God is, and that coming together, that personal nexus of all things in the enfleshed word is at the heart of all the artwork that I'm doing, and I hope all the preaching that I'm doing and all that kind of stuff. That's kind of the central concept around which the various planets of my life orbit.
All right. Right on. And so I'll ask you a quick question, but do you mind? I think I can probably pull up your website. If I can share my screen here.
Yeah, I don't know what Instagram is capable of, but if it is,
let's see. I will try and pull up your website and then. But my question for you too is, what sort of, medium, or what sort of tools do you use to do your artwork?
yeah, well, I have always been a sketcher, so I've always just sketched physically on paper all my work. Look at that. That's pretty cool. So you must be on a computer.
I am on a computer, yeah.
Look at that. So yeah, physically I'll do sketches and things like that, kind of the medium of physical art. But probably 2014, I switched over to work on the iPad. So I'll still do, drawing for fun, but my main medium of creation is digital art, which is interesting when we talk about AI as a artificial intermediary between the human creator and the final product, because I'm already doing that. Really, I'm putting a piece of plastic on a piece of glass and moving it around,
Yeah.
and some kind of conductor is translating that movement into changes on the LCD screen and ones and zeros. So, I'm already mediated a little bit here, but yeah. So digital art is my province or field,
Yeah.
as it were.
It's quite amazing. You can get very detailed. Like if I think about doing, I'm not a very good drawer at all. But if I think about drawing on an iPad, that's even like more difficult for me. But it's like the detail that you can pack into these pictures.
Well,
is quite amazing.
Yeah, there's some interesting, it's almost like you're not using your medium well unless you're doing something that only your medium allows you to do. If you're doing the exact same thing on one medium you'd be doing in another, it's like, why are you not in the other? And there are some very interesting things that digital art does allow, such as infinite zooms, where you can continually go in further and further and further. And there's a lot of theological meaning that can be presented in just the fact that this image can be literally zoomed into infinitely. And that's something I've been working with in my mind. I've got some ideas I've got so many ideas for things I'd like to do, but I'd love to move more into art that can only be created in the medium on which I'm working. But that is down the road, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah, so I have one more question on your artwork. I'll just mention, if you go to his website, there's a gallery, and Chris, you have the explanation and the biblical text all kind of laid out there, which explains each piece, which is quite awesome.
Yeah, right. And I'll mention that all this work is free for those who are in ministry. So any pastors, worship leaders, lay leaders, discipleship leader, whatever it might be, who would benefit from using this work, they can sign up, register for a free minister account, and then all my work is free for them to download. So I want to make this as accessible to the church as possible. So that's one of the models of ministry that I work with.
Good. Yeah. Very well done. Okay, we'll maybe switch to more specifically the topic of AI now. And I like to ask this just to get a, kind of hard and fast answer. What is your stance on AI? Are you totally against it? Totally for it? Are you kind of in the middle? Where are you on that?
I guess I say I'm in the middle, because like we said before we started the discussion, AI can be, I think, fruitfully compared to the internet. And we're probably in about 1996 as far as, AI, maybe earlier, maybe 92, I don't know.
Right.
But we're early on in what AI is and what it will become. And so I can't give a definitive, here's my stance, on it. But I guess I'm more wary than on board. Mr. Beaver in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe has this saying when he's talking about the White Witch, and essentially what it is if you see something that it looks like it's human but it's not, or is on its way to kind of becoming a human but it's not, and he says that's when you should keep your hand on your axe and be alert. And so not in a reactionary way, but it's just like, okay, this is giving all the signs of being a human, and likely within a few years almost indistinguishable, and that is at the very least concerning. And here's part of that, because it's really, when we say AI or artificial intelligence, it seems more like what we mean is artificial rationality, because it's not just that it just can add things together or whatever. It's showing a form of human intelligence, like what they call general intelligence, AGI. And for me, and I think for the Christian tradition, rationality is a participation in Christ, in the Logos. Being logical is participating in the Logos, who is not merely a concept, but the person we meet in the flesh of Christ. In fact, the person of Christ. And so what you've got here is kind of an artificial participation in Christ by an entity that is not capable to participate in him in any way. So all humans are participating in Christ when they think logically, even if they deny him. And we've seen the horrors that come from one who is participating in the rationality of Christ without submission to Christ, what that does, what unsubmitted rationality does in an image bearer. But what would artificial participation, simulated participation, non-tethered participation in that rationality, what would that do in an entity that is incapable of submission to Christ, so far as anything gives us any reason to believe that it would be incapable of that submission? And to me, that forebodes great and unforeseen calamity that we can't even imagine what that might be, what that might look like. But anyway, we could go further into that, but it's just very interesting. When AI is not the image of God, but it's an image of the image of God, or an image of the image of God, since Christ is the true image. And when you start copying things on a photocopier over and over again, you get some interesting little problems. So that was not quick and fast, but that's where my thoughts are.
That's good. That's good. Yeah, and you see that, I forget the details of it, but there's all sorts of things with AI in relation to, like, AI considering itself a god, and people worshiping
Well,
AI at
yeah,
this point and stuff like that. So
it will certainly. Yeah, I mean, we're certainly making
yeah,
an image of ourselves, and for many, I was listening to some talk the other day by the guys who did the AI 2027 document, the authors of that, and they were talking about how, once it gets to this superhuman or godlike intelligence level, we just ask it what to do and it tells us what to do.
yeah,
Um, and of course, there was no sense of the irony of that. At least they didn't express it, that we've created an image and then we go to it, we bow ourselves before it, and we say, what do we do? What do you tell us to do? And it's just, the creation of an idol. Basically, you're just checking off all the
boxes.
spots. Yeah, to say, okay, here's an idol. Check, check, check.
Yeah.
So in that sense, right, there's a lot of, what will that become? Which is wild. And it feels like sci-fi, but it's so not.
No, it's,
It's so immediately present, which is just wild to think what the next few years could hold.
yeah, it's advancing very quickly, and I said, when we were talking earlier there, that I do music, mostly music in terms of my art medium, and so there's various apps and AI generators that can generate music, and it's quite surprising how good it can be now.
Right.
Music. So that's kind of, I see that. I've done a little bit of the generating art with AI. Again, it's kind of intriguing, but also terrifying. But so I've kind of seen a couple different ways that AI is being used or can be used. But more specifically, I want to ask you, like, is AI impacting what you do as an artist, and how is it impacting? Are there useful ways of implementing AI for you, or
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously there's lots of people making AI art right now. And I haven't done that, other than early on when there were first little apps, and it's like, wow, could I? And this is not that long ago. This is 2019 maybe. And there's a little app where you could put in like 2 prompts, and it would give you this kind of impressionistic thing. You could say like Batman and Super Saiyan, and it would give you this like kind of bat with like yellow light around it. You'd be like, that's cool that it came up with that.
Yeah.
But now, of course, within, it's just orders of magnitude more.
Yeah.
So obviously it is allowing a lot of people to create images that were not able to do so before. And so in that sense, it's opening up the field of visual art. And you wonder, how different is that than when high quality cinema cameras became available at a consumer level,
right?
Or when high quality audio production tools became available to everybody, and all of a sudden you don't need to go to the big studio anymore. You can just work. So we've seen this kind of thing before, this kind of breaking down of the gatekeepers' capacity to keep the gates,
yeah,
and allowing a flood of new work. And I think whenever that does happen, there's an influx of, now everybody's making their own films. Now everybody's making their own music. Now everybody's making their own art. But I think that eventually balances, works itself out, because capacities for artistic expression do rise to the surface and some don't. And so I think there'll be a balancing effect there as far as this first big inflow goes. But yeah, as far as how it's affecting me, I have not been personally affected by it in any way, other than people saying, is your art AI? And I say, no, it's not. And I think if you really, maybe it's just for an artist, but I can tell AI art, not in the sense that I can tell it because it's bad. I'm not saying, oh, I can tell it's no good. It has a flavor about it.
Yeah.
And the stuff I do is, I would say, less like AI art is more immediately impressive than the stuff I do. Mine is like line art, and it's got this kind of flatness to it, and it's not really, at least right now, the way AI art looks. Though in the future, I'm sure it'll be able to emulate it perfectly. But yeah, the biggest impact for me has been saying, no, actually, I'm not using AI. This is just normal art.
Yeah, that's good because you mentioned that you can still tell, you can still pick out AI art. I think that will always be the case. But I guess for you, you have a unique, well, for one thing, you have a unique type of art in terms of it being exegetical artwork. But also you have like a unique lens, like you know art, visual art very well because you do it. So you could probably pick out AI art better than most of us.
Yeah, that may be the case. I do feel like I can always tell, though. Yeah, uh, and some of it's really, really neat, because the kind of stuff that you haven't seen before. So that's cool. I do think though, it's a fruit. The Pope Leo the 14th has recently compared this, and I know other people are doing the same thing, to the Industrial Revolution and the changes that came about there. And if we do follow that analogy through, you think, okay, there is IKEA now, but there's also handmade furniture that people still want. So furniture, you don't need a person to make furniture anymore. You don't. But people want humans to make furniture, and they want to have handmade furniture. And so there will probably be a time where you do not need a human to make art or movies or music anymore, or food or whatever. But that will only make it more, the people who continue to do that. It's not like, oh, they're out of a job, because art isn't pragmatic.
No.
It's not like, oh, I've got the picture, why do I need that anymore? No, the fact that this was run through the fleshly sieve of a human mind and heart and soul matters to me. And I still want that. And I think there's always going to be people who are saying that in any, sphere of art.
I totally agree, and I think it makes human artwork even more valuable as we go forward, because art is, in my mind, totally relational. True art, right, is relational, and so we look for those relationships, and if we know, this person made, this art piece, it's like, oh wow, that's pretty awesome, and you understand the sacrifice that goes into that, and yeah.
Yeah. And there is, I mean, and you touched on the fact of the exegetical. I mean, part of what, like you said, right, relational, part of what's coming through with art is the living experience of the human, of the image of God, the one who is a model of Christ, and their interaction with him, known or unknown, explicit or in it, or implicit, that's coming through in the artwork that a human makes. Now, it's not entirely absent in artificial intelligent art, because artificial intelligent art is based on human art. It's like the imprint of Christ on the human soul is so deeply stamped that it stamps through our flesh into anything we make, including AI.
Right.
So AI still has it printed. It still has him printed on it. It can't nothing that is made by us, or really made at all, can get away from that. So it's not like, just like artificial orange flavor still has some semblance of the flavor of an orange, which is an idea of God. The flavor of orange is an idea of God. So even an artificial chemical orange flavored pop open your Fanta soda pop has some distant echo of the mind of God in it. And artificial intelligence is not going to be able to escape that. So there's that element that's kind of baked in, because it's within creation, and creation is within Christ.
Yeah, that's a great insight. We are getting fairly close to our half an hour mark, and I promised you that we wouldn't go much more than half an hour. So I do want to get one more question in, though, an important question for this particular podcast, and that is, helping the church or equipping the saints for the advancement of AI and the age of AI. And so that's my kind of last question to you is, do you have any advice for the church as time goes forward and as AI advances?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it would be, and I know you don't mean it this way. I think it'd be a little presumptuous of me to try to give like advice to the whole church.
Right.
but what I think, so when I started my my doctoral work in 2020, but really a little bit before that, my thought was, man, the everything's shifting and changing. You have COVID and all these stuff is going on. And I thought the most valuable, the most needed thing, the most practical thing for me to do if the world is falling apart is spend as long as I can looking at the cross as deeply as I can. Looking at specifically not, Christ on the cross as John sees him and declares him in his gospel and in the Revelation, the Apocalypse. And I've only come more deeply to that conviction. And so my encouragement to any believer and, the bride of Christ as a whole would be to live at the foot of the resurrection illumined cross. Live before the cross of the risen Christ with our eyes on him, this crucified one, seeing him pierced, pouring his life out, seeing him risen in joyful victory, turning all that he bears into life and joy, knowing that this one right here in the midst, enmeshed in all our fleshly agony and mortality, and yet pressing through that this is who God is. This is what reality is for. This is the ground and sustaining reality and telos of all being. Living here is what we're called to do. And so we do run all of our thinking through the flesh and blood of Christ at the cross, run all of our cultural interactions through him, run all of our thinking about anthropology and what's it mean to be human and what's it mean to everything runs through him and to him. So that would be my encouragement is, who knows what's coming up? The future is uncertain fundamentally, and what AI is going to develop into, who knows? But we have an unmoving, unchanging cipher, as it were. But he's more than that, because he's everything. He's the telos. And so I guess the image of Revelation 5 is, you've got the slain and risen Lamb reigning from the throne of God, with all of reality pulled into doxological orbit around him. And that is the place where anything is truly itself, once it's pulled into doxological orbit around the crucified and risen one, reigning from the throne of his cross. And so I'd say, labor to see how AI is going to fit into the orbit around Christ, because that's where it will become what it is meant to be. Rather than becoming some diabolical, tool that is going to do who knows what. So that would be that's a conceptual encouragement, but I find it very practical. Like that's what I hope to do going forward and encourage others to do.
Yeah, I think that's great practical advice. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. And thank you, Chris, for lending me your time and your thoughts. Thank you to everyone who's listening as well, and God's everlasting peace be with you in this ever-changing world.